Hello everyone and welcome to Discover Labyrinths with Lars Hallett. Today we're going to be drawing the 7-circuit Chartres variation, which is a adaptation of the 11-circuit medieval Chartres labyrinth. Now the full Chartres labyrinth can be difficult to fit into smaller spaces. And you have to remember that the Chartres labyrinth was inlaid in the floor of a cathedral. And not many of us have cathedral-sized spaces to install or create a labyrinth. So the 7th Circuit is the most popular adaptation that I create for clients. And because of the popularity of my 5th Circuit, which is the smaller variation for small spaces, the 7th Circuit was widely requested in the videos comments that I share this design with you. So I'm going to share with you the 7-circuit Chartres Essence, which is a design created by my mentor, Robert Ferre. There are other Chartres variations, but this is our favorite. We're going to dive right in and create this. So the first thing we need to do is to fit our labyrinth into the space. Now, when we're drawing it, we need to fit it into the piece of paper. So I have a piece of paper here that is 64 blocks wide, and I want this not to hit the edge of the graph paper, so I'm going to give it 2 blocks space. So I'm going to make it 60 blocks wide, and that's a nice whole number for our diameter, which, half of it is going to be the radius. Now, that would make this 30 blocks in radius, and I'm going to use a compass. Now, certainly you don't have to draw this precisely. You could draw this freehand, and if you're out, in your backyard, you could simply take a string and a spike in the center and just simply see how large of a circle you can fit into your space without even measuring. Now, the next thing we need to consider is how large our center is going to be. So if our diameter is 60 blocks, then the traditional proportions of the Chartres labyrinth would be the center is 1/4 of the diameter. So this would be 15. But often when we create variations of the Chartres labyrinth, either 5 or 7 circuit, we make the center slightly larger than 1/4 diameter. So I'm going to make this 18 instead of 15. So it's going to be between 1/4 and 1/3 of the diameter. And so then that radius of the center is going to be 9 blocks. Now, obviously, you can make that different depending on your graph paper or space or materials that you're using. So now we need to create our pathways, and they need to be consistent in width. I've already made the calculation that these will be 3 blocks wide. Now, you could also do the math if you wanted to and take 60 minus 18, which is 42, and then divided by 2 is 21, which is the space of the paths on one side, and then divided by 7 would be 3. But, you don't have to do the math. You can, you could even use a stick or something to measure out your path widths. You just want to make sure, if you've done your diameter and then your center, then obviously you need to calculate your path widths because it's going to be 1/7 of the space between the center and the diameter. So, but I wouldn't get caught up too much in the math. Again, if you're math averse, then just try to see the shapes and the geometry of it and do it more visually instead of more rationally. And here we go. You know, I am not being super careful with my compass here. You know, it depends how precise you want to be, how careful you're going to be. And usually when we're doing the Chartres labyrinth, we have more precision than if we're doing a classical labyrinth, which can be more organic. Okay, so now we've got our center, we have our 7 circuits, and the next thing we want to do is to create the entrance to our labyrinth. So the entrance to the labyrinth is next to the entrance to the center. And actually, this is the most common mistake with creating these concentric circle labyrinths, which is many people align the entrance to the center line and use that as the edge of the center path. But that center orientation line is actually the center of the path entering the center. So we're not really drawing a line from the center down. We're actually just going to use that as our reference, and then we're going to go a half path width over and draw that line on the left side, going all the way from the center to the entrance. Okay, and then we want to go on the other side of the center orientation line, and we want to do a line, a half path width. So our path width is 3, our half path width is 1.5, and we're going to draw that going from the center out across 2 circuits only. Then we're going to skip 2 circuits and do another 2. And that's because this is actually going to be the entrance to the center, and the person is going to come around. They're going to go up, around, back around, and then into the center, right? Now we can create our entrance to the labyrinth, which is going to be 3, 1 full path width, which in this case is 3 blocks over, 1, 2, 3. And because our center line is half of a path width, this is actually going to also end up on a half block. And again, we're going to make it go 2 path widths in, skip 2, and then 2 path widths in. So, should we review? First, we've determined our orientation, which is a line that goes from the center straight out of the labyrinth, right? But that line is not something that is where we place the objects to build the labyrinth, and it's going to be erased. It's just a reference line, okay? But from that center reference line, we measure across half of a path width to the left, and we draw a line that goes all the way from the center to the perimeter, right? It crosses 7 path widths. Then, to the right, we are doing a line that goes from the center out 2 path widths, also 1/2 path width over from that orientation line. Then we're going to skip 2 and then draw another one right there. Then from our left, our line that goes on the left of the orientation all the way from the center to the outside, we're going to go over 1 full path width, which in this case is 3 blocks, and we're going to draw from the outside in 2, skip 2, and then 2. And then finally, we're going to measure 1 path width in from both of those 480-degree turns, and those are going to be your turnarounds. So you're going to go in 3 blocks and draw a dot, 3 blocks and draw a dot, 3 blocks and draw a dot, 1, 2, 3. and 3 blocks, 1, 2, 3, and draw a dot. Now we can even use our compass to draw the 180-degree turns that are formed by those dots, and you may have to adjust your compass to make sure that those are in the correct space, because the line that you're, or the circle, the half circle that you're drawing should touch the vertical line and the 2 circuit boundaries that you drew on either side. And then you can shade in these areas between the half circle and the paths to the center on this side, and the paths from the entrance on this side. And then you want to erase 3 lines. I can darken this. So I'm erasing the 3 lines between this turn and the vertical line. Then I'm going to erase the 3 lines between that turn and the vertical line. I'm going to erase the 3 lines between this turn and the vertical line. And I'm going to erase the 3 lines between that turn and the vertical line. And these lines still exist. So, you know, this that's coming around. And you want to double check here that you go into the labyrinth and you turn, right? And then you come back around and then you turn. Now, then we want to erase the line between the dots and the turns to make your 180-degree turns. And then finally, we want to draw 4 kind of quarter circles on that inner corner of these 180-degree turns. And that's going to round out our entrance. And that should be a very familiar sight for those of you who are well versed in the Chartres labyrinth. This is kind of the point on the labyrinth with the only 90-degree turns that we encounter. And they are right when you enter the labyrinth, you go through those 2. And then right before you get to the center, you go through those 2. Some people think this looks like a dancing woman, and other people maybe call it a bow tie. So it depends. Lastly, we need to, you see how this is imbalanced? This is shaded in on this side, but not shaded in on this side. We need to draw those half circles on either side of this to balance that out at the entrance and balance this out at the center. That's a common mistake too, is to forget to balance this out. Now, actually, you could stop here because guess what? This is the 7-circuit classical. This is the 7-circuit classical labyrinth, which is really surprising that if you erase the outer two circuits and inner two circuits of the 11-circuit labyrinth, that is how we create this 7-circuit Chartres essence. And if we don't put in the turns, then actually we have a 7-circuit concentric classical labyrinth. So this is really exciting that you have a classical labyrinth kind of embedded into the medieval labyrinth design. Now, to make the full Chartres essence, though, we need to put the turns on the axis, right, on the cross. So the one odd thing about this Chartres essence is that the first turn comes off of the side here. Now, in the full Chartres labyrinth, it comes off of the top, which is very balanced. But this is probably the one drawback of this design, is that this first turn comes off of the side to the left. Then the next turn goes out from the center 1 circuit and goes up, and then out from the circuit and goes out again. So now we're out 2 circuits. And this is also slightly different than the Chartres labyrinth 11 circuit, where you have these 2 open pathways on the outside. But here with the Chartres essence, you have the 2 open pathways on the inside. And then just like the Chartres labyrinth, you are skipping a path between your turns, and you're going to put another one here, another one at the top, 1 circuit out, and another one over here, 1 circuit out. And basically, you've gone from the inside out. You keep moving 1 more circuit, and you are extending your double-headed turns out 1 circuit more every time you draw it, right? So none of these turns are actually on the same 2 circuits. Now you can use your compass, and we need to create the 180-degree turns. So if you have it already set for 3 pixels, or whatever your path width is, 3 blocks, then you're going to round these to create your labyrinth, which is the kind of double-headed axe. Now you can shade in the areas in between the 2 half circles that you drew. Okay, and the last thing you want to do is erase the, sorry, I'm shaking the camera, I realize. There's an earthquake here, creating labyrinth earthquake. Well, and there you have it. So there is the 7-circuit Chartres essence. Now I would go back and darken in, all the lines to kind of embolden the labyrinth design. And you can always test it with your finger or pencil to make sure that it works. But this is a really nice variation, and I appreciate you subscribing and sharing your comments and questions and ideas, and liking this video and sharing it on social media. If you want to post it on Facebook or put it on your website, I welcome you to do that. And if you want to go on a deep dive into the labyrinth drawing, then please see my Teachable website, which is veritas.teachable.com, and there you can do extended videos in labyrinth drawing and design. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the path. Bye-bye.